Welcome to the Language and Motion podcast, where we share inspiration, tips, and tricks from stories of success and failure on the language learning journey. In today's episode, we are focusing on pronunciation. Specifically, the pronunciation of ED and S. Have you ever experienced difficulty pronouncing these sounds? To begin, it's important we understand the difference between voiced consonants and voiceless consonants. Voiced consonants use the vocal cords and produce a vibration in the throat. You can observe this by placing your finger on your throat while saying the letter J. Now you try. J. You can feel the vibration because it is a voiced sound. Voiceless sounds are made using our mouths. They do not produce any vibration in the throat. You can observe this by placing your hand in front of your mouth and making the P sound. Now let's try. P. You can feel the air come out of your mouth, and you will notice there is no vibration in your throat. All right, now that we clarified voiced and voiceless sounds, let's learn about pronouncing ED. This pronunciation is important because many verbs end in ED in their past simple and past participle forms. For example, cook, cooked, cooked. And many adjectives made from the past participle also end in ED. For example, I like cooked tomatoes. When pronouncing ED, there are three ways: id, t, and d. If the base verb ends in the sounds t or d, then the ED sound is id. For example, want, wanted, end, ended. If the base verb ends in the unvoiced p, f, s, ch, k sounds, then the ED sound is t. For example, hope, hoped, laugh, left, fax, faxed, watch, watched, like, liked. If the base verb ends in all other voiced sounds, then the ED sound is d. For example, play, played, allow, allowed, beg, begged. Keep in mind that the determining factor for the ED pronunciation is not the last letter of the verb, but the sound. So it is not what you read, but what you hear. For example, although max ends with an X, it has the sound of an S. So we follow the rule to give the ED a T sound. Max, maxed. And like all rules, we of course have our exceptions. When used as adjectives, these words are pronounced with id even though they do not follow the rules for the id pronunciation. Ragged, wicked, crooked, naked, wretched, blessed, learned. Now as verbs, the normal rules apply. She blessed me. I have learned a lot. Confusing, I know. So let's review. Repeat after me. End, ended. Decide, decided. Recommend, recommended. Hate, hated. Intend, intended. Start, started. Stop, stopped. Laugh, laughed. Promise, promised. Watch, watched. Finish, finished. Walk, walked. Allow, allowed. Cry, cried. Enjoy, enjoyed. Clean, cleaned. All right, you have mastered the ED pronunciation. Nice work. Now let's move on to S. To make a noun a plural, we add S or ES to the end. For example, egg becomes eggs, and pass becomes passes. We also add a final S or ES to verbs conjugated in the simple present tense. For example, she studies English, or he works at a school. Here again, we have rules for pronunciation based on the final sound of the word being modified. S is pronounced as S after voiceless sounds like t, p, k. So beat becomes beats, top, tops, bike, bikes. S is pronounced as Z after voiced sounds like D, G, and E. So bed becomes beds, tag becomes tags, and bee becomes bees. S or ES are pronounced as is after the sounds sh, ch, s, z, ij. So wish becomes wishes, match matches, miss misses, fix fixes, surprise surprises, ridge ridges. We hope today's lesson on pronouncing ED and S will be helpful for you as you continue on your language learning journey. That's it for today's episode. Subscribe to our podcast for updates on our next episodes, and please send us your requests for future topics at hello@limlessons.com.